Welcome. The topic of this video, bypassing the planet's star lord in KP Astrology. Now, this topic might sound unbelievable to many because in the KP we have read that the core rule is that a planet first gives the result of its star lord. In so many places, so many times, in so many classes, so many discussions, we have learned that this is the KP's fundamental rule. A planet first gives the result of its star lord. Therefore, this topic of bypassing or ignoring the planet's sublord in KP astrology, this might sound like a fancy exploration or some kind of a dramatic video presentation, but it is not. It's actually based on an article from the Astrology and Adrist, a magazine that was published by Professor Krishnamurti himself. So this whole presentation, video presentation, is based on that article. And since this appeared in the magazine that was being edited by Shri Krishnamurti himself, so it is certain that there was an editorial sanction from Professor KSK about this particular topic. So this topic is not off limits. My idea behind making this video on this particular subject was that I have noticed that many online KP classes, they tend to make the students falsely believe that KP is a 100% foolproof method requiring no further enhancement. Now, this is a very false narrative, and I think they should let the students know that the many times when they are reading a chart or analyzing a chart, they are likely to face roadblocks, and this is where the student should be motivated to explore more hidden aspects of the KP framework. Now, one example I can very easily give you is about uh, the Kamala Harris chart. Now, if you this is a AAA rating chart, that means our birth time is very accurate. And if you create this chart and try to apply the KP, the classic rule, then you will not be able to get a satisfactory answer, or you will not find that the KP rules are fully justifying the various kind of Raj Yoga that she was about to reach. Similarly, when you start doing some practical work in the field of KP astrology by reading charts, then I know for sure that most of you will get or will start facing one or the other kind of a roadblocks. So that is the time that when you have to start thinking out of the box, and there are many hidden aspects within the KP framework that need to be explored. In my various videos, I have tried to just do the same thing. And let me give you the list of some of the videos that from top of my mind I can remember. The Cusples of Lord. Time and again in many videos I have shown that the making use of the Cusples of Lord in the birth horoscope can lead to all kind of potential issues. Then the another the CSL method using sub by SP Kullad. This is not something that one should adopt in the within the KP framework. It will create more hassle for you, which I have shown in my video, that how adopting this creates more headache. Then Bhaskaran's method using sum. This is a dependable method, and I will create some more videos on this. I like the Bhaskaran's method using sum only. Then the 4 step. I will also I think I made a couple of videos explaining what 4 step is, and now I will also make video where I will explain that what kind of issues are there in the 4 step. Then I discuss the popular Bhrigu Nandi Nadi. This is a very popular subject with the Jyotish enthusiast, and I showed in this video that why Bhrigu Nandi Nadi cannot integrate comfortably with the KP framework. Same with the Navtara Chakra, where you find out the Janma Tara and the Sampat, Vipat, those kind of Tara, and then based on that you do some prediction. You can't possibly integrate the KP framework with the Navtara Chakra. Then in one of my videos I also showed that there is some overhype about the twin births, and many KP enthusiasts will keep on telling you that why the cusp chart is required and how the cuspal sublot changes so fast, and that is the only way to explain the issue of the twin birth. Whereas in my video, it's just the other way around. Actually, the twin births have more similarities in their personality traits rather than the differences. And that similarity can only be explained through the Rashi chart. It cannot be explained through the cuspal sublot of the ascendant. So my idea about making all these videos was not to create some kind of a dramatic presentation, but just to save you some time, since I have been exploring this and applying these experiments in many horoscopes. So I thought that I should share my experience, so that when you start exploring these things, then at least you can look from the point that I have expressed in some of my videos. That will save you a lot of time. See, the idea is that eventually you should become comfortable on the predictive or the Phalit side, rather than wasting time on the configuration side and things like that. You see, I'm a very firm believer of the multi-pronged approach, and I created a video just on the advantage of having a multi-pronged approach, where you tackle a horoscope from multiple methods. So that gives you a more satisfactory results, rather than just being confined to a very narrow KP framework that you might have learned in one of the KP online classes, and then you start facing all the roadblocks. I can see by the comments I get on my channel, where the users are saying why this KP rule doesn't work on this chart, or why that KP rule doesn't work on this chart. That's the reason that it doesn't work, because your online in the online classroom, you have been served a false narrative that you can't possibly go beyond the KP framework and explore some more methods. This is a very proven strategy that you should make use of, multi-pronged approach. Now, having said all these things, uh, now let's look at the actual example of bypassing the planet star lot in KP Astrology. This is the chart that we are going to use to explain the topic of this video. And like I mentioned, that this chart is based on an article that appeared in Astrology and Adrist that was published by Professor Krishnamurti. So it's 25th June 1931 p.m. And some of the information when you go to the Jyotish portal and input this data, then rest of the information you can find here. Like the city is Vishakhapatnam, and the Anasha that I have made use of is the Krishnamurti Swiss. See, I had a very tremendous problem creating this chart. That I will explain in some other video. It's not easy to fetch some proper information from the Krishnamurti readers or even the magazine. So I had to do a lot of effort to actually figure out that what exactly are the birth particulars of this chart. So this is the chart that we are going to use. And for a more simpler explanation, I will navigate to my own whiteboard where you will have a better idea. Now this article in Astrology and Adrist was written by one gentleman, Mr. KVR Anialu. Sorry if I am not able to pronounce that last name. And there are 3 or 4 articles that I found in the Astrology and Adrist archive, but I have picked up this particular article, and I did try to search for this gentleman's more work on Google, but I was unable to find any other books or any other articles. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to make a copy of this the planet signification table and modify it according to the author, and I'll just address him as KVR. So I'll just paste this information over here. And now when I was in the Jyotish portal, when I was creating this chart, then I realized that there was some discrepancy in the calculation. In my calculation, the Ketu was in the Rahu's star and Rahu's sub. But in Mr. KVR's article, it appears the Ketu appears in the Mars star and the Moon sub. And another thing is about the Mercury. In my calculation, the Mercury sub was Ketu, but in KVR's article, the Mercury's sub is Venus. I did try to reconcile, but it was taking a lot of time. So I thought I'll just rather continue with what KVR has mentioned in his article. So I'm going to highlight this, indicating that this is what we are going to use. This article does a reading for all possible dates of transfer in this horoscope. And the KP rule is the house grouping for the transfer is 3, 10 and 12. So these are the houses, those are required when it comes to judging the transfer in a chart. Now, what KVR has done is that he has totally ignored the untenanted or the self-start, the planets. He has ignored the positional strength of planets, and of course he has also ignored the star lot, which is the main focus of this video, and he has only taken into account the sublot. I'm going to remove this thing so that there is no confusion. So now So now I'm going to whitewash all the columns which are not taken into account by the author. So we have the planet and the sublot. That's all Mr. KVR has taken into the account. So it's a very interesting actually article. And now let's look at what his rules are. Now he says that look at the planet which are in the third cusp. Why third? Because the third cusp is one of the houses that's involved for the transfer. So here we find that Saturn is there. And then now he says that look at this column, the sublot column, and find where Saturn is. So you find Saturn is here. Okay, so that means the Mars, the sublot is Saturn. So the first significator that we get is for third Mars is the significator. I hope you got this rule from Mr. KVR. That let me write down the rule also. Look at this specific cusp. Note the planet in the cusp. Find which planet's sublord has this planet. Oh, so this is a simple rule. So look at the specific cusp means we looked at the third cusp. Note the planet in the cusp. Here it was Saturn. Find which planet's sublord has this planet. So does Ketu have Saturn? No. Venus? No. Sun? No. Moon? No. Only the Mars has. So we made a note that Mars appeared as the. And now let's look at the 10th cusp. So in the 10th cusp you find Venus. So you have to apply the same rule. So if you look at this column, so you find that Venus appears over here. So now for 10th, the Mercury becomes our significator. And similarly for the 12th. In the 12th, you don't see any planet. It is vacant. So for 12, nothing. You see, this is quite, I mean, a little exciting. Because traditionally we would have interpreted the whole thing in a different way. But since according to KVR, the author, the 12th cusp is blank, there is no planet. So he has not taken any significator over here. So now the only planet that we get is Mars and Mercury. Mars and Mercury. Now the next rule is that any nodes represent the significators. This is the next rule. So now we see that the Mars is in the Rahu is in Aries. So we can say that Rahu is equal to Mars. And since Mars is one of our significator, so now Rahu also joins the list of significators. So I will just write the final significator. So we started with Mars and Mercury. And now Rahu is also joined the list. we have let me highlight this in some different color. Now let's look at the what the is Ketu representing any of the significator? So we find that Ketu is in the star of Venus, and since Venus is not a significator, so we are only left with Mars, Mercury, and Rahu. Now the next rule is that are there any planets in the sub of nodes? And here the nodes means Rahu, because Rahu has appeared as a significator. So we find that Rahu is in Rahu sub, and we also find Jupiter is also in the Rahu sub, and Venus is also in the Rahu sub. So now our list of significators is going to expand, and we have Mars, Mercury, Rahu, and then now we have Venus, and we also have Jupiter. So this is the final significator list that is purely based on looking at the sublord. The column 1, column 2, column 3, all has been ignored. Okay, star lord has been ignored, position strength has been ignored, self significator or antenatal, everything has been ignored. And this is how we got the final list of the significators for 3, 10 and 12, which is Mars, Mercury, Rahu, Venus and Jupiter. You see, this is very simple actually, not very complicated. Now, another thing you notice is that the nodes signification is only taken into account by what sign they are occupying. Since Rahu was occupying the Aries sign and Mars was one of the significators, so Rahu was taken, and Mars is now actually removed from the list. This is one of the common KP rule that if nodes appear as the significator, then they tend to represent a planet more powerfully. So now we are left with Mercury, Rahu, Venus and Jupiter. These are our final significators. Now comes the most important point. Now the most dramatic part of this article is where Mr. KVR has given all the dates of the transfer for this horoscope. So all dates are given, and you see this combination Rahu, Venus, Jupiter, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus. This is the Mahadasha, Antar and Pratyantar. And these significators are all coming in from this particular list that we finalize according to the KBR's article. So this was a very dramatic kind of effect that I had. It's not easy to easily identify all the possible dates of transfer in a horoscope with such a simple method. I really don't know whether how true these dates were, but since this article appeared in the Astrology and Adrist magazine, so I'm going to believe it. There is a credibility of that magazine. So otherwise, see, this alone, if somebody has to work out, it takes a lot of effort, lot of work, and there is a lot of confusion when you take into consideration all these column 1, 2, 3 and 4, and sometimes even the star lord of the sublord. Then you apply 4 step, and so it creates a maze of confusion. So here Mr. KVR seems like pulled some kind of a trick just by focusing on the sublord and producing this list of the transfer states. Seems to me the person to whom this horoscope belongs might have met Mr. KVR sometime around maybe 64, 63, and one of the questions he was that when is his next transfer going to happen? And Mr. KVR gave this date, and the dasha, antar, and bhukti, again, coming from the final significators. And look what he has mentioned. When the sun transits the Vishakha constellation in the sub of Mercury on this particular date, he will report for duty at the new place. Again, there is a specific date, and his place of transfer will be southwest of Vishakhapatnam. This article is so amazing in terms of its simplicity and the way a good and very effective horoscope reading is done. So that's why I thought that I should share this article with you guys. There are many things which I noticed when I was working on this article. One is that every single significator that appeared in 3, 10, and 12 has been taken into account. Nothing has been ignored. If these four planets have appeared, then all this combination, whenever they appear in the Mahadasha timeline, has been identified. So that's one thing that I noticed. And now the implications of this article is actually evolved into something which is called as the sixfold significators. I'm going to talk about this in some other article, but this very article, when I was working on it, this article has been in my mind for quite some time, and off and on I have been thinking about it. And when I gave it a lot of attention, then I realized the sixfold significators. See, right now we just have the fourfold significators, but when you take this particular technique of Mr. KVR, then you can end up with creating a sixfold significator. And sixfold significator has its own explanation in terms of many horoscopes that we are normally not able to explain, and they appear in Krishnamurti's reader. So that I will discuss in some other video. And I will also discuss that what kind of problems I faced when I was working on this chart with no proper data in the magazine, and how I was able to figure out the time of birth and the date of birth. So that video is probably going to be the next video. So I would request that you guys, this is a very simple technique, and that you can very easily work on your horoscope, your friends, relatives, family members' horoscope, and let me know in comments what you feel about this particular technique from Mr. KVR. So that's all in this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and